Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and this is the 2024 Skoda Kodiaq. Now, for any of you who've been watching my channel for a little while, you'll know that I was looking to replace our family car, which is a Tata Hexa, with another new 7-seater. And a couple of months back, I drove the Jeep Meridian. I'll have the review in the pop-up banner on the top left, as well as in the description below. But considering that we're looking to move up to the D segment, it only made sense to check out the Czech car maker's flagship SUV, the Kodiaq. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to see whether the updates that came in 2022 still hold up in 2024 and whether it is a worthwhile purchase today. If you do like this video, do hit the like button down there and consider subscribing. It really helps me out considering this is a small channel. And yeah, let's get straight into the review. Before we get any further in the review, I just want to state that this has been loaned to me by my local Skoda dealership, Mahavir Skoda, hence the stickering on the side. And I really appreciate getting this for an extended test drive so that I could film this review. Under the hood, the Kodiaq has a 2.0 litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. And as some of you will notice, there are hydraulic struts holding the boot up, which is a complaint I had with the Meridian, which did not have hydraulic struts. And that at this price point is a very odd omission. I'm glad Skoda didn't do the same. Now, this engine is a really nice turbo petrol engine. It makes 190 horsepower, 320 Newton meters of torque, and it comes paired to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. I'll have the specs up on the screen right now for those of you interested. The engine is quite potent and free revving, and anyone who enjoys turbo petrols will really enjoy it in this car. It's very sporty, it makes a good noise. Only thing is, fuel efficiency isn't the best considering it is a big SUV and turbo petrols aren't particularly efficient. So your driving style will make a big difference in what kind of mileage you get. Expect around 9 in the city. If you do use eco mode, you get this really cool coast function which helps you recover some fuel efficiency. When you're coasting, it'll put it into neutral. That way you won't burn extra fuel. Also, there's a start-stop system. So let's quickly talk about the driving dynamics of the Kodiaq. And the Kodiaq now comes standard fit with DCC or dynamic chassis control. And what that means is that the car has this onboard system that can alter the throttle mapping, the suspension. It can make it a little stiffer or a little softer. It can even calibrate the steering weight. And what this means is that the amount of situations this car can deal with are quite vast. So for instance, right now we are in the comfort mode, and I can feel that the suspension's a little softer, it has a little more play to it, and it is ideal for trafficy situations such as this. However, when the roads clear up, you can then put this into sport mode, and that really makes this engine come to life. Not that it was a dead engine before, but from being linear, it becomes downright sporty. And you can feel that when you stab the throttle, it picks up speed so quick. And as you can see, you close the gap to the traffic up ahead really fast. And that's also down to what Skoda claims is a 0 to 100 in about under 8 seconds, 7.8 seconds or something. And I trust them. Like this 4-wheel drive system and this 2-liter TSI engine, they really do work really well together. I also want to take a quick second to praise this engine. The TSI engine is a very lively unit. It does rev out up to 6,000 RPM, and that you can hear when you're in sports mode like I am now. I quite like the sound of this engine, and it definitely feels like you've got enough power throughout the entire rev band. Feels like anytime you put your foot down, it is eager to go, and that's only aided by the really quick shifting DSG gearbox dual clutch. I'm going on a slightly uphill section right now, and it's just so quick to get into gear. It knows exactly where you should be. And when you want to take over manual control, you can just flick the paddles here and you can see it's gone into manual 4. You can drop it down, third, second, you can get a move on, shift up, and the gearbox is just so quick to respond to the paddle inputs. And actually the issue that I had with the Kodiaq last week when I drove it, of it being a little lurchy at low speeds, is pretty much ironed out in the Kodiaq, especially when you drive it in comfort mode. Now this is a perfect example of slow moving traffic, and just see how well this creeps off the line. And as I was saying before, that's not typical of a DSG gearbox. I really like how Skoda have tuned it. The overall refinement levels in the Kodiaq are also pretty good. Like, I have a lot of cars around me, a lot of them honking, and honestly very little of that is filtering into the cabin. The external noise has been controlled very well, and overall you get a fairly plush and comfortable experience inside the cabin from a NVH or noise, vibration and harshness standpoint. Let's talk about the ride quality of the Kodiaq, and right now it's in comfort mode. I'm going over some slightly broken stretches, and honestly it's quite comfortable. In comfort mode, the suspension is absorbing most of the bumps, and the only thing is that this is a European SUV and you can feel a little bit of the sharp edge of the bumps, especially if you're going a little fast. But if you're going slow, it really deals with most road imperfections, at least the smaller ones, really well. Now I'm going to be hitting some slightly rougher roads. This is probably the worst of the roads that you're going to get when you're driving a Kodiaq, in the city at least. And you can see it does take that initial hit fairly well, though you can feel a little bit of the thud, especially on the deeper ruts inside the cabin. And there's really not much. Yeah, that was a really bad section of road, and it's dealt with this section very well, especially because it's running on relatively large wheels. And honestly, in comfort mode, that is how you'd leave it in the city. That's how you drive it. It's quite good. I'd also like to mention its turning radius, which for an SUV of this size is actually pretty good. This section that I've just done is a fairly tight road, and I know for a fact that there are four-wheel drive SUVs and all-wheel drive SUVs that have struggled to make it around there. So that means that this deals with smaller city roads really well, and that paired with the light steering at low speeds is a real big positive for anyone looking to daily the Kodiaq as their city car, as their all-round car. And that slight firmness definitely helps it in the cornering department, because the Kodiaq feels like a really fun SUV to chuck around. And as you pick up speed, there is so much stability on offer, and the four-wheel drive system definitely helps with the stability and safety factor of the Kodiaq, especially on a rainy day such as this. It is very reassuring to have. The steering of the Kodiaq is relatively light pretty much in all the modes that you drive it, but especially in comfort and eco mode, it makes it really easy to just twirl it around and maneuver through town. And that said, it does weigh up as you go a little faster. So as you can see, I'm getting to about 60-70, and I can definitely feel it way up. But if you want the weightier steering feel, you do need to put it into sports mode or individual mode, where you can calibrate how all the different parts of the DCC feel. I'm quickly going to pop this into sports mode. Here you can really see that despite the Kodiaq being a relatively large SUV, being in the D segment, it feels quite nice throwing it into a corner. There is body roll, but it is relatively well contained. and that's down to how Skoda has tuned the chassis and how the DCC allows the suspension to get a little firmer in sports mode. I quite like how the Kodiaq handles. It's definitely leaning more towards comfort than sport, but I think it makes sense for an SUV such as this. So now the Kodiaq does have an off-road button, but honestly, most people who buy a luxury SUV like this will not take their car off-roading. So I'm going to show you how much off-roading a car like a Kodiaq will see in its life. And this is more soft-roading than anything, but here's a glimpse of how it works. Since the Kodiaq has been around for roughly 7 years now, I'm quickly going to breeze over all the design stuff for you guys. Up front, there are a few recognizable bits. There's the signature Skoda grille, which is pretty much the same grille you get on the Kodiaq, Slavia and Octavia. I also like this new Skoda emblem that's just above the grille. And you also get this really nice, very sporty splitter at the base of the front bumper. I'll also mention that these headlights are actually new from 2022 onwards. When the SUV was facelifted, they got reprofiled and got new LED daytime running lights. Apart from that, you'll also notice that while these do look like a split headlight setup, much like the Kodiaq, they're actually just regular headlights on top, and your fog lights up here rather than somewhere down there that we're typically used to. And while on the subject of headlights, you also get these well integrated headlight washers. The other things on the front end, there's this massive air dam at the base of the bumper, and like before, you get a very nicely sculpted hood, which adds a lot of character to the front end of the Kodiaq. Not much has changed on the side profile of the Kodiaq since it was launched, and that's not a bad thing. Skoda did a really good job with the overall styling of the Kodiaq those 7 years back. As you can see, it's got these really nice chiseled lines that add a lot of depth to the profile of the car. And you get really smart looking alloy wheels also. These are pretty much the same wheels you got at launch. The multi-spoke design really works with the elegant look that they're going for. Now, because the Kodiaq's only available in the L and K variant, you get the Laurent and Clement badge up front. You also get this really nice chrome accent that goes all the way around the window line of the car. And you get these really nice silver roof rails that are actually functional, like you can mount a roof box. Apart from that, you don't get a side step. You get these molded side skirts which look really nice, and the lower part of the door is also molded here. So it again breaks the lines and helps mask the visual mass of the entire side profile of the Kodiaq. The rear of the Kodiaq has a very simple and clean design, though I do like how Skoda has used these character lines to add some depth. One is this one that ties in with the shoulder line. Another one is how they've contoured the tailgate down here to basically hide the visual mass again. They don't want it looking flat and MPV-like. On this updated Kodiaq, you got Skoda lettering on the tailgate, which looks quite classy. And the tail lights, these were also updated. They've got this really 3D look to them with really interesting LED lighting elements. Plus, they get sequential turn indicators, which makes it feel more premium. Though oddly enough, Skoda didn't give sequential turn indicators up front. Besides that, the only other major design point at the rear is this chrome garnish at the bottom of the bumper, which forms this dual exit exhaust sort of look. But even though I don't usually enjoy this look on most cars, I'll give Skoda a pass because they don't call it dual exit exhaust, and it sort of goes well with the overall classy, elegant look that they're going for. Stepping inside the cabin of the Kodiaq, you'll be greeted by a very lovely interior. I love how they have sculpted the dashboard. It's got this really nice and upmarket look to it, and that is also helped by all the soft touch material that they have used. Like up here, they've used soft touch plastics even on the top of the door cards, and that really elevates the feeling of premiumness in the cabin. Now, the Kodiaq is a 7-year-old car, and that means that it's not got the most cutting edge of infotainment systems. So when you look at the screen, it's a relatively small 8-inch unit. It's really well integrated into the dashboard, but because it is so small, it looks a little out of place in a car that is so expensive. And hats off to Skoda, they have tried to make it look bigger than it is by giving it these gloss black bezels that are there on either side of the infotainment screen. These are basically, they've got shortcut keys for your media control, your navigation, and your other car information, as well as 2 physical dials which I really like. One is for your volume and one is for your general navigation of the screen. The Kodiaq's infotainment system isn't the latest and greatest out in the market. As such, if you look at it, it is quite simplified. This is your main home screen where you can see you've got your radio controls up there. Your telephone controls here. This is my phone connected right now. Your inbuilt navigation, which you'll need for your digital instrument cluster, as well as your general navigation. Then you have your safety assistance systems, basically the driver drowsiness monitor, your media controls, and most importantly, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I have Android Auto right now and it works rather well. As you can see, the screen is acceptably responsive, though it does not feel like the cutting edge of infotainment screens out there. The slicker units seen on other cars, even within the Skoda range like the Kodiaq, feel far more tablet-like or smartphone-like in their response. This one has a little delay, but it is still pretty good for infotainment systems in a car. And it has all the Android Auto functionality, so you get your multi-window for music and maps, you get all the Android Auto apps that you can use. It is a little tricky to find the ambient light control. For that, you need to go into your vehicle settings, go into settings, and from there you have to go into your background lights where you'll see all the different colors that you can pick for your ambient lighting. I really like how the ambient lighting on the Kodiaq has been executed. It makes the cabin look really posh, especially at night. The Kodiaq also comes with a 360-degree camera with a top-down view, though you can also look at the left, right, front and back view for better understanding of your surroundings. The camera is pretty good, though at low light, like most of the other 360-degree cameras, it does become a little grainy and there's a lot of noise to the footage, but it is fairly responsive and very usable. I also want to talk about these really nice front seats. Both the driver and co-driver seats are electrically adjustable, 12-way electric adjustment, and that paired with the fact that the steering wheel is adjustable for reach and for rake, you can really easily find a comfortable driving position for yourself regardless of what size you are, tall or short. These seats also have ventilation and heating, though interestingly, if you want to switch between seat ventilation and heating, you have to do it from the on-screen controls. But once you've selected which one you want to use, there are actually physical buttons which makes life much easier. And any of you who've been watching reviews on this channel, you'll know how much I love ventilated seats, especially because of the hot climate there is through most of India. Skoda has also really practically laid out most of the cabin, meaning you get a fairly large storage area up here. There are 2 cup holders, and under this armrest, which as you can see is actually adjustable for height. So you can see it right now is not really convenient for me, but there are 4 clicks, and with those 4 clicks this now is just right for me. It's also adjustable for forward, backward. Apart from that, you also get 2 glove boxes, one main one down here and a second one up here. All this said, there are a few downsides to the interior of the Kodiaq. That is the scratchy plastics, especially lower down on the dash. This is soft touch, but as you go just below that, the beige plastic is scratchy, as is the lower part of the dashboard here and the door cards. Though I will say that the door pockets have a felt lining, which mean that if you drop any loose change or bottles, metallic bottles, they won't rattle around. So that does add a sense of premiumness back to the cabin. Another nitpick inside the cabin is, yes, there is a wireless phone charger here, but it isn't the easiest thing to get to. This isn't the biggest of phones. This is my old phone. But for instance, if I take my current S23 Ultra, it's very fiddly to get the phone into the wireless charger and out. I wish that was slightly better design. I'll also give a quick shout out to the digital instrument cluster. This is a proper 10-inch unit, and it, unlike the Kodiaq, gives you a lot of customizability. I will just walk you through all the features now. So unlike the Kodiaq, the Kodiaq has a full-fledged digital instrument cluster with various displays. This is the simplified look. This is the more performance-focused one with your rev counter and your speedometer in the middle, with your fuel efficiency on the left and your distance to empty on the right. This is probably the view everyone will end up using, which is the traditional dials, your rev counter on the left, your speedometer on the right, and your maps in the middle. And this is a simplified look with your maps, which you'll get your inbuilt navigation directions from here, as well as your speedometer on the bottom right and gear selected on the left. Ironically, this is the larger of the 2 screens. The infotainment's actually 2 inches smaller. Last couple of things while we're up front, I'll say that the sound system, which was also upgraded in 2022 to a 12-speaker Canton sound system, is really nice. It's got rich lows and mids, and the highs are also very clear. So anybody who enjoys music will really enjoy the sound system in the Kodiaq. And the other thing is, it does get a panoramic sunroof, and it's a fairly large one. You can see it up here, and the glass section actually opens quite wide, which is something that the front passengers will really appreciate. I really like how the doors make that thud sound, make it feel really well built, and give you that reassurance that this car's build will last you for a while. Now here in the back seat, you will see this seat is set to my driving position. I am 6 foot tall. The middle row is currently adjusted to its rearmost position, and you can see I have about 2.5 inches of knee room. My headroom's actually pretty good. I have about another 2 inches, and that's despite the panoramic sunroof coming all the way back. And as I was saying in the front, the sunroof really does extend quite far back, so it lets in a lot of natural light. Now in the rear, there are a few things that you get as amenities for the rear passengers. One is this little flap for storage. You can put your magazines and stuff in there. The rear also has its own dedicated climate control zone, which can be controlled by the button here, and you get your AC vents down here as well. Now, some other comfort features that I really like is this retractable blind that is incorporated into the door of the Kodiaq. This really does make the Kodiaq feel fairly premium. You also get a really nice armrest, There are 3 cup holders here, and it's really well placed. You can rest your elbow very comfortably, and you can get into a fairly comfortable position for a long drive. That is also aided by the fact that you can tuck your feet under the front seat, and that lets you stretch out a little bit. Another simply clever feature, as Skoda calls it, is the nap package, which, as you can see on the outer headrests, there are these little winglets that come down, and if you're sleeping, you can basically doze off without your head, leaning too far onto one side and you getting a crick. So this is excellent for those passengers who fall asleep on long road trips, or for anyone who needs to catch a power nap between their meetings. While we're talking rear seat comfort, we should also talk about the middle passenger. Now, this central tunnel is fairly high, but it is narrow. So when you get to the middle seat, you can actually tuck your feet in fairly well. And even out here, there's a reasonable amount of headroom that I have. My knee room's also pretty good, and I'm not eating too much into the side passenger space. But again, you wouldn't want to have 3 really large individuals back here, but slightly leaner. I think 3 people will be fairly comfortable for a long drive as well, though the center part of the seat is a little firmer than the outer seats. Now, this is one of my least favorite things to do in a 7-seat SUV, especially one where the rear seat's not particularly designed for large adults, as the Kodiaq is. So as you can see, I have squeezed into the rear, but there is essentially very little space. As is very evident, my headroom is non-existent. This seat back cannot be reclined, and you're basically sitting on the floor. My knees are all the way up, and I would not enjoy spending any time in the back out here. Additionally, if you focus on the front seats, there's no space left for the front passenger, but if you slide it back, I can't even slide it back right now, you can roughly see that if I raise this, I would not fit in the back out here at all, and that is not a very comfortable place to be. So I'm gonna hop out of this third row real quick. The Kodiaq, as you'd expect for a premium SUV, has an electric tailgate, and you can see there's actually a pretty decent amount of space. I'll put the exact liter figure in the screen somewhere down there. That's my little camera bag that hopefully gives you some reference to how much space there is. But you can easily carry 2 carry-on suitcases or 1 really large suitcase in the back comfortably with all seats up. Now, if you want, you can make this cargo space even better by dropping the third row of seats, because let's be honest, you're really not going to fit anyone comfortably back there. Those are essentially just emergency seats if you need to carry 2 extra people for short rides within cities or kids. Now, with this, you have a huge boot, and again, I think this is roughly over 500 liters of space. I'll put the exact figure down there again. And I really like how Skoda has laid the boot out. There are some nice luggage hooks here, so that when you buy groceries, you can put your packets there and it won't slide around the entire cabin. They also have nice lighting and these cool tabs under which your medical kit is available, your repair kit, and your spare wheel is right there. Space saver, of course. And if you want, you can further even drop the middle row of seats, and that gives you roughly 2000 liters of cargo space. I'll just show you that real quick. That's one side. Unfortunately, there are no tabs at the rear to do it easily from the back. And another thing, keen-eyed amongst you will notice there is no load lip. So it is very easy to just slide long items all the way through. And in case you are using this as a 5-seater with a large boot, Skoda has also provided a very nifty parcel shelf, a very nifty parcel cover which you can use to cover up any of your belongings when the boot is shut, so that when you lower the tailgate, nobody will be able to look into what you're storing in your boot. While I had previously briefly driven the Kodiaq on multiple occasions and ridden in the back of it a few times, I never really understood the car really well or gelled with it. And I definitely didn't understand all the hype behind it, especially from the owner standpoint. Sure, it had a very plush and high quality interior. It also had a really solid build which you could feel from the moment you opened the door. And of course, the styling was very classic and a little on the understated side, so that did appeal to me. But in my eyes, I felt like the Kodiaq had started showing its age a few years ago. Despite the facelift that came in 2022, I don't think there was enough done to make the car look fresh with that facelift. And the interior also wasn't looking up to scratch, especially compared to a lot of the newer rivals in the market. The Kodiaq always had the image of being the feature rich of the D segment SUVs because obviously it was compared to the Fortuner, which has set the benchmark in that segment for so long. However, in reality, it's actually the MG Gloster that has the most amount of features on offer. If that's all you really care about and a lot of space on the inside, that is probably the car for you. On the other hand, something like the Jeep Meridian offers a lot of the features seen in the Kodiaq at a much lower price point in comparison. Plus, I really like its styling and driving dynamics, though its after-sales service record has not been great. You can check out my review of the Meridian, I'll have it linked in the description below. And all this when you consider the pricing of the Kodiaq, which is rupees 40 lakh ex showroom, and that means on road it'll be closer to roughly 50 lakh. That is a lot of money for a car that is now feeling a little long in the tooth. And we also know there is an all new generation of the Kodiaq headed to our market sometime early next year. So from a price standpoint, the Meridian and the Gloster both offer a better deal. And personally, I've never been a huge fan of the Fortuner. Yes, I've always appreciated its tough as nails build quality and bulletproof reliability, but it's always felt a little cramped inside and definitely feels outdated today. The Fortuner offers better resale value, and the only other competitor in the market, which is the Nissan X-Trail, hasn't really been targeted towards the masses. Being a full import, its ex-showroom price is roughly 50 lakhs and its on-road price will be closer to 60 lakhs. So that is not even in the conversation for a value for money offering in the D segment. However, now that I've gotten to spend some time with the Kodiaq, I've really started to bond with it and understand its appeal. There are a few small things around the car that really help make it feel that much more premium than its rivals. First up, there's the pop-out door protectors, which of course help protect your door and they're so neatly integrated into the design and functionality. Then there's the felt lining in the door cards, which adds a really premium touch for such a mundane thing. And then there's the adjustable front center armrest, which I really appreciate. All in all, if you are currently looking to buy a Kodiaq, I think it's definitely worth considering, though you should keep your eye out for some hefty discounts because the model is due to be replaced. But provided you get a good deal, you will get a very well sorted, premium and luxurious SUV, which feels much more expensive than it is on the inside, and it has fairly classy styling on the outside as well. I hope you enjoyed this review and found it informative. I look forward to hearing your opinions about the Kodiaq down in the comment section below, as well as what D segment SUV you would pick. Hopefully I can get some feedback from you guys. Maybe some of you guys own these D segment SUVs. That would be really good. And I'll catch you guys in the next review. Until next time, cheers.